Faithful, you recognize this face right here. It's Ran Carthon, former director of player personnel at the 49ers. Now you're doing work with CBS Sports and you're just all over the league. Tell us what you've been up to.
Man, I've been doing a whole bunch of nothing. Just doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Making a transition to the dark side, doing the media stuff now, and finally being a good husband and a good father and just being available to my family. I've been having so much fun doing that. I coached, I was assistant coach on an 8U flag football team, which, by the way, we were the Niners. So let's throw that out there. We were the Niners, and so it was fun being able to coach my boys. And now my daughter's a senior in high school. My youngest daughter, she's a senior in high school, and she's starting her flag season, which they were finished last year, ranked number 22 in the nation. And so now I get to travel with her team and get to see her play in her final year. So it's been fun. It's been fun. And like I told you guys before off camera, like, my life is filled with peace and joy. No stress.
I'm so happy to hear that. Tell us about what behind the scenes of working for the 49ers organization is like during a week like the Combine.
I mean, listen, people ask me this all the time, right? Who's my favorite team? I grew up, you know, my dad played in the NFL, played for the Giants and the Colts. You know, obviously I played in the league a little bit, and my dad worked for 7 teams over 19 years. But when people ask me who do I root for, I root for the Niners. And I know for my Giants family that they'll probably disown me because I grew up a Giants baby, but the Niners organization has always been good to me, always been good to my family. I still have a ton of friends over there that I speak to on a regular daily. I don't think there's a day that goes by since I left that I don't speak to someone at 4949. And so that's family. And again, working for John Lynch it's easy. Working for Kyle Shanahan is easy because you understand and know what the expectation is, and then they get out of your way and allow you to go do it. I've been places where you're micromanaged, where someone's always looking over your shoulder, and that was never my experience in the Bay. And so I love it. Every chance I get, I'm watching every game. And even when I was GM of the Tennessee Titans, we didn't win a ton of games. I mean, that's fact. That's on, you know, math is math. It doesn't lie. And I would leave games and come home and kind of go in my respective space, and I would turn on the Niners game. And it would just make me feel better to know that the Niners won. At least I got a moral victory, you know, for that day. But I always have love for the faithful.
You just got love across the nation. You got your East Coast team with the Giants, that Central team with Tennessee.
They probably neither one of those fan bases probably care for me right now, which is fine. I can come back to the Bay.
The faithful love you, Ran. Okay, now you talked about working with John Lynch and what that family aspect is like, and a lot of the words that are being thrown around right now as we're going through the Combine and starting that draft process are culture fits. And so can you describe what the culture is at the 49ers on the player side also, and what they're going to find themselves in once the Niners draft them?
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'll give you a little bit behind the scenes. When John Lynch was hired as the GM, obviously he came in, didn't have a ton of experience from the scouting side, and, you know, people had a lot to say about that. But John Lynch is one of the greatest leaders I've ever been around. And one thing that he did was he put together a thing, it was called the 49er Way. And we established qualities and what we were looking for, not only in the building of what we wanted a 49er to be, but on the field as well. And so I can tell you this, for the players that they look for, obviously they're looking for really smart players. I heard you doing the interview earlier, you talk about guys that can play multiple positions, guys that you can move around. I think we got to a point where we were almost playing positionless football with Debo and with George and with Christian. And so having players that are really smart, guys that are tough, that kind of is a foregone conclusion. You have to be tough to not only play for Kyle, but to play in that division. So you have to be tough, guys that can run. But then the other thing, and this is a John thing, is good people.
Yeah.
Having really good people, because you got to be stewards of the Bay, you got to be stewards of the state of California. And if you look at the guys that we have on our team, I probably lead the league, and I'm saying on our team, I'm not even with the team anymore, but if you
You're
look
holding
at
the mic.
Right,
Yeah,
but if you look
team.
at the guys, I don't know that there's any team that does more community work than the guys at the Niners. There's always a ton of guys, and shout out to Austin Moss for that and the work that him and Shelby were able to do and get those guys. But that's the culture. That's the culture of the San Francisco 49ers, and it's having those guys. And then the big thing is family and brotherhood. I know that was one of our big buzzwords early was the brotherhood. IGYB. You've seen it on it. I got your back. That was always on our T-shirts. That was always our mantra. That carried on the field. It was off the field when Johnny Holland had his sickness, and everyone rallied around him. If you go all the way back to Marquise Goodwin, when he lost his child, how everyone rallied around, Marquise. And even in a moment where a player like Marquise Goodwin, you lost a child, not a friend, not even a sibling, you lost a child. He still showed up and played for his teammates the next day. And if you remember, he caught that touchdown. And I think we almost got a penalty just because of the way the guys rallied around him and showed him love and support. But that's what being a 49er is.
That moment was very special, and I think it lives on in that 49ers family legacy. Now, you talk about finding good character in these athletes that are also amazing at what they do and super talented. So during those interviews, during the combine, how do you get to that meet? What sort of questions do you ask a player to find out their character?
So a lot of work is done by our area scouts. They're in these schools all year long, literally. And so they do a lot of work. They do a lot of background. We call getting the background, we call that character. And so our area scouts were really good at getting that. A lot of area scouts around the league are really good in, collecting sources, being able to get inside information to understand who these guys are. If they have issues off the field, are they terminal? Or can you chalk it up to being young and immature? We've all made mistakes.
Yeah.
A lot of us are in the positions we're in because we were smart enough to not get caught. Let's be real, right? We've all done things. We've all enjoyed college and enjoyed life that way. But if there's a guy that ran into trouble, is it terminal? Is it a guy that just is a bad person? And if he's not, do we have the infrastructure to surround him with support to allow him to grow and mature? And so when you're sitting in these rooms, you make each interview specific to what's going on in this guy's life. And if you have a guy that has good character, he's never been in trouble, none of that, then you can get to the football. But if you have a guy that's had some issues, then 15 minutes is the start of the conversation, and then you may bring them in on the 30 visit. So now you can get more to the bottom of those issues and determine if they're going to be a problem. You have the outside sources, and you have people that sit in on these interviews. You may have them sit with your mental health people to figure out, is there something really there? And so that's a lot of the work that goes into figuring out if these are the right people that you want to bring in.
Yeah, and I have to say huge success to the 49ers front office, because obviously the professionals like y'all are grading how talented these athletes are. But I've had the pleasure of being in the locker room with these guys for a few years now, and they're all good people, no matter what walk of life they come from. Everybody has so many different personalities, but at the end of the day, like you said, they're good people and they represent the 49ers well. So you mentioned that you were catching up with the team throughout this season. What do you see as some areas of need for the 49ers and that you're going to be highlighting and looking for them to see that they do during the draft?
Well, obviously we'll start on the offensive side of the ball. Jawan Jennings' contract is up. I think John's been vocal about where the things stand with BA. I think there's going to be a need at wide receiver. I know they're working through the contract stuff with Big Trent right now, but you have to be real. Big Trent's still not going to play, 10 years from now. So offensive line is going to be another place where you can address the draft. You never worry about the Niners at the running back position. I know Christian has been great. My first 5 years at the Niners, I think we had a different leading rusher every year, and they came from various places. So they'll be fine there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, adding to the secondary, adding another corner, and you can never have enough pass rushers. I'm really interested to see how things are going to evolve with the defense, with Raheem now stepping in as a defensive coordinator. I won't speak too much there until I know for sure what Raheem wants to do on the defensive side of the ball, because the system in and of itself has not changed since Kyle came in, and Raheem has experience in the defense, but Raheem in recent times has primarily been a 3-4 guy. So we'll see where that scheme goes, but can never have enough pass rushers, can never have enough corners because we see guys go down. And I think adding to the linebacker spot, Tatum Bethune really stepped up this year in the absence of Fred, and he's become a really good player. D. Winters stepped up and took more of a leadership role, and obviously Fred is Fred. Fred is one of the best to ever come through franchise history. Will wear a gold jacket one day. But having all those guys, maybe even look in the secondary at safety and add another guy. So I don't even know if that's enough picks to cover everything.
Maybe those comp picks will help us out.
But just, again, some of the places where you can improve this roster.
Definitely. Well, Ran, once a Niner, always a Niner. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I appreciate it.